Today I'll share with you guys some key workout types and some key specific workouts to help you with a strong marathon training block. Now, regardless of the structure of my marathon training week by week, there are three rules that I tend to abide by. Number one, a gradual increase in mileage across the block but no huge jumps. Number two, starting a block with some faster than marathon pace work and then move into some marathon specific workouts between realistically weeks 10 down to weeks 3. And number three, find a solid shoe rotation and stick with it. And yes, I understand point 3 doesn't specifically relate to workouts, but I do find that training consistently and trying to stay injury free are more than half the battle, in all honesty, to get through a successful marathon training cycle. So I rarely chop and change my running shoes. If they're doing well and keeping me injury free and I'm enjoying training, then those ones will stay in for the duration of the block. Now, I'm currently just over halfway into my 11th marathon training block. I've done a variety of training styles over the years, but there are some key workout types that I want to share with you before diving in to specific workouts that I've honestly swear by, especially over the last 3 or 4 training blocks where I really feel like I've taken some good steps forward. So let's jump in to what they are. Over and under workouts are the first one I'd like to highlight. That was something introduced to me by my old coach Will about 3 training blocks ago. I then did it in my last training block and I've also done it in this one. These come at the start of the block for me around week 12, sometimes 13, where it's 13 this time around, 12 for my Newport training block. And I also find that I can translate it to shorter distance races too, but we'll talk about it in a marathon specific format. And what I tend to like to do is 3 on, 3 off, or sometimes 4 on, 2 off, times 10. So it's a 60-minute workout in total, and it's a good introduction into getting not specific with marathon pace, but working in and around it. So the goal here is to work slightly under marathon pace and slightly over. Now, hands up, it's taken me 2 or 3 attempts to get this workout right, but the more recent time I've done it at the start of this training block, I finally got a grip with it, and it does take a little bit of practice because I'm used to running interval workouts fast and then resting a little bit slower. So the goal here is to really work 10 to 15 seconds either side of your goal marathon pace when you're talking in minutes per mile. That's what I tend to work at, and I think this time around I was pretty darn close, around 20 seconds I think, so I've squeezed it down. And again, all you're getting your body to do is to work slightly quicker but then not give yourself a full recovery, meaning when you're doing these type of workouts you don't let your heart rate completely drop. When you're doing a classic interval workout, you'll see a good heart rate graph where your heart rate spikes really high and then drops back down to allow you to recover, and then you run really fast again, it spikes really high and recover. This is more of a gentle curve, meaning that you're really working more so on your endurance, being able to hold a higher heart rate for a longer period of time, let's say, and it does get your body practicing paces slightly over and under, so that when we get to the marathon specific work, it's going to feel a little bit easier. And the second workout type is fartlek workouts, and I flipping love these. These are so good for any type of distance workout really, but again, they're so adaptable for marathon training. I just find them to be great, and actually the enjoyment factor is one of the key reasons that I love to keep these in my workouts. Now, I've done training blocks where I've done marathon specific work for a long period of time and not put faster than marathon pace work in there really at all throughout the training block, and I can tell you now, I've got to the start line feeling absolutely sluggish and I've not run my best marathon at all. My best marathon training blocks are the ones where I throw faster than marathon pace work in there, and as I said, fartlek workouts are a great way to do it. I tend to start with in and around 26-28 minutes worth of intensity. When I'm starting 12 weeks out, throwing these workouts in, as I get closer towards the goal race, I tend to be up to in and around 34, 36, 38, maybe even 40 minutes worth of intensity. Now, naturally, with anything, as you extend the distance, the intensity will drop slightly. Like for a 5k or a 10k, if I'm doing a fartlek workout, I wouldn't go out and do 36 minutes worth of intensity. I'd shrink it down and the intensity would be slightly more because the goal pace is slightly quicker, so I'm trying to be a bit more specific to that event. When it comes to the marathon, all I tend to look at doing for these fartlek workouts is to work slightly faster than marathon pace, and then if I'm doing a cut down style fartlek workout, just cruise the pace down quicker and quicker as the intervals get shorter. Or if I'm doing a standard fartlek workout where it's a straight through 10 by 3 minutes as an example, then I'll just look to try and hold faster than marathon pace work. But the beauty of these are I never tend to do them on the concrete. It's very rare. I'll tend to take them out onto the trails. Where I live, I'm very lucky, so I have that ability to take them out onto some undulating terrain. The beep goes off on the watch and I hit the terrain in front of me, whether it's up, down or flat. And again, along with working on speed faster than marathon pace, you get to work on your leg strength on those trails and hills as well. And the medium long run is the third workout type that I want to shout about. Absolutely brilliant, and they've been a revolution since I've introduced them into my training. I just find them to be, again, just like the fartlek, so great for building strength and yeah, just really helping with time on feet, so that those long runs, when you come to them, don't feel like such a shock. Again, doing medium long runs, which was about 3 blocks ago, I really introduced them. Before then, when I was introducing the long runs, it was such a shock to the system with the legs, but the medium long run kind of bridges that gap between just a standard easy or steady run and a normal long run. So for me, they look like 75 minutes at the start of a training block and 90 minutes at their peak, maybe 1 hour 40 at a push. But overall, 90 minutes is a good standard for me to sit and hold at in the final few weeks of a marathon training block. And as I said, it's great time on feet. I tend to run them steady depending on where I am in my cycle and also what my weekly training structure looks like in general. But overall, they're just such a good run to incorporate into your week. And then finally, marathon specific workouts, which we're going to come on to very, very shortly. These are the fourth type of workout that I want to shout about, and we're going to go into the specifics of these very, very shortly. But again, I wouldn't be without them. About 5, 6, maybe 7 training blocks ago, that's when I really started to introduce specific marathon training runs, and there was just an absolute game changer. Again, going from someone that just wanted to originally in his first marathon complete it to then start to try and train a little bit more seriously, that's when I really started to discover, after 3 or 4 training blocks, marathon specific work and really incorporate some good marathon pace work into my training. And over the years, that's extended from shorter workouts through to longer workouts, which I'll go through shortly, but just priming the body ready for what it's about to go to and just getting your body used to what marathon pace feels like, again, has just made such a massive difference. So on that note, let's jump into the specifics. K-reps is just such a great place to start. Such a simple workout, kilometer repetitions, but doing them at marathon pace. That is the first marathon specific one. And then taking a 90-second easy jog in between each of those seems to be a really good standard for those type of reps. As you get more advanced, you can squeeze that rest down to sort of 60 seconds and sometimes even 45 seconds. But the goal here, if you're kickstarting, if you're a newer runner that's just completed a marathon and looking to get into more specific work, K-reps are just a great place to start. Starting at sort of like 8 to 10 in like 12 weeks out in your marathon training block can be absolutely fantastic, and it just starts to set the body up because you're getting 8 to 10k worth of work done at marathon pace 12 weeks out. It's such a great place to be, and again, because it's such a simple workout, it's a good one to comprehend, nothing complicated, and it's a really good one if you execute it well. Moving on from that, a couple of weeks later, perhaps you can look at some 2k reps or even some 3k reps. Those are the next good logical step as you're looking to gently build the amount of time you're spending at that marathon pace zone. So something like 6x2k will give you 12k worth of work as opposed to your intro session of 10 or 8k worth of work. And again, slightly longer reps, so you're going to have less rest, longer reps, and again, just getting your body used to running at marathon pace for slightly longer with less rest intervals. Again, if I'm honest with you, I tend to keep the same 90-second rest in those at this stage. As the reps get past 2k, I tend to extend the rest slightly to 2 minutes, maybe 2.5, and then at the bigger end of the section, maybe get to 3 minutes rest, which I'll share shortly. But at this stage, I do tend to keep those in and around 90 seconds. Or if you're feeling brave, 3k reps are great. 4x3k again will give you 12k worth of volume, and again, you're going to be shortening the rest once more, and that's just a good one to do again to spend more time in that marathon pace zone, get your body used to it, and is a good step up from K-reps. And moving forward in and around 7-6 weeks out, you can look at something like 3x5k. That's going to give you 15k worth of volume. And again, you're only going to have 2 rests in between the rep 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. So you're having less rest time, more time spent in that marathon training zone, just getting your body adapted to running at that pace for longer. And at this stage, it's going to start to flow. It's going to start to feel good. The workouts will be tough, but you're going to, if you pace it right, you'll start to feel good. And more advanced version, I guess, if you're starting off with more K reps and more 2K reps, you can go to something like 4x5K. In this training block, I actually did 4x3 miles. I just converted it to miles because that's how I run. I tend to run in miles, and so effectively it's almost the same. 4x3 miles is 12 miles worth of work, and 4x5K is going to be, what is that going to be? 12.4-ish miles worth of work. So very, very similar. But yeah, you can see here the progression that we're making. Let me show you the next step. And then around 5 to 6 weeks out, maybe even 4 weeks out, you've got a couple of options here. I think a good option if you're more of a beginner stepping into this sort of realm of working at marathon pace would be 3x6K. So again, we're now getting 18K worth of work done at marathon effort. Again, same rest. So at this stage, you could be looking at 2.5, 3 minutes worth of rest, depending on what you feel you need at that stage, but more time on feet in that marathon pace zone, more adaptations happening over the weeks, and more comfortable our bodies are getting with marathon pace. Or you can start to look at doing some straight through marathon pace work, because what I feel personally is that we can do a lot of interval work during our marathon training cycles, and actually this applies across the board, to be honest with you. Sometimes a straight through solid tempo run or a marathon pace effort is needed. So if you work in kilometers, you could be looking at doing a straight through sort of like 18, 20, 21K half marathon basically, run straight through at marathon effort. Again, depending on your ability level, you can shrink that slightly or you can increase that slightly. For me, the straight through runs have often been up to 16 miles worth of marathon pace. I've never gone over that, but I've done 14, 15 and 16, and I find that for me to be a sweet spot when it comes to straight through marathon pace work. Now I have to stress at this stage that this is obviously very personal. I'd love you guys to do your own research and stuff. I'm just hoping to throw some ideas at you that might help you structure your next marathon training block. But for me, 3 weeks out is when I tend to do the final last hard long run, the last long run where I've got some good marathon effort in there and some good structure to the long run, not just an easy long run or a straight through moderate, but there'll be some marathon pace work in there and maybe some slightly faster stuff. But rewind back to that 4 or 5 weeks out, that's when I'll do my peak workout. I'm not saying that in weeks 4 and 3 I don't do peak workouts, but what I'll tend to do is do my peak volume workout in and around 5 weeks out, and then try and maintain that volume for the sessions in 4 and 3. I might even just bring it down slightly, but still do very close to that volume and just do a different variation of that session. So I might get, let's say, 14 or 15 miles worth of work done 5 weeks out, and then I might just bring it back down to sort of 14, 13 miles worth of work in weeks 4 and 3, but just change the session up into different interval structures. So I'm still getting the same work done, but I'm stimulating the body in a slightly different way. And I feel that if I can get that done and I get 2 or 3 weeks worth of really good high quality marathon sessions at that stage, I tend to have my best marathons. Looking back through my training logs, the ones where I've run the best are the ones where I really put the quality in weeks 5, 4 and 3. And then I'll leave you with a top tip. As I just said, I tend to peak in and around 3 weeks out. What I like to do, and what a lot of people don't often do, is sharpen up during the taper. They'll go, it's relaxing time, the work is done, the hay is in the barn, there's nothing more to do. But actually there is. In 2 weeks out for the long run, I tend to keep this very similar volume long run. So I'll be out there for a long period of time. I'll just shrink the intensity within the workout. So I tend not to do marathon specific work that day, just faster than marathon specific work and maybe some intervals, but most of it is going to be steady state long run. But the sessions in weeks sort of 3 to 2 and 2 to 1, although the volume will come down, I'll still keep those sessions in there, and I'll keep those faster than marathon pace sessions in there as well. It's not time to relax, it's not time to put your feet up. There's still work to be done, and you still need to keep yourself feeling nice and sharp. All you're looking to do at that stage is just bring the volume of the sessions down, but keep that intensity for the most part. So I really hope that helps. I genuinely do, and I'd love to hear if you have any questions in the comments below. I mean, what you've got to remember with these videos is very personal to me and how I work and what I found has worked over the years, and just analysing. I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks looking through my last few training blocks. I've had some marathons, like my last one actually, that just didn't go to plan. I've had other ones that have gone really well, and it all comes down to similarities that I'm picking out in training, which is why I structured my current training block in the way that I have. I've got it to the point point where I'm starting to home in on what really works for me and what doesn't. And thankfully, at 5.5 weeks out, I'm really starting to hit some good form, some good paces in my workouts, and things are starting to click, which is why exactly I wanted to share this video. I'm starting to piece together a formula that works for me, and I hope genuinely that over time, when you guys do marathon training blocks, you'll find what works and what doesn't. But I would really encourage you to throw in some marathon specific work into your training if you're not already doing so. I would really encourage you to check out some fartlek workouts and keep those in, or some standard interval workouts to keep that faster than marathon pace work going. And if you haven't already tried any medium long runs, those are a real game changer as well. But of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. In particular, what's your number one go-to marathon session that you love to do, that if you execute well, makes you realize that you're in really good shape? It'd be great to hear from you down there in the comments below. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one.